Welcome back to the podcast. This is part 2 of how to not stay glued to your phone while you're on vacation.
Yeah, so we did the first part of that last episode.
At the Lake Lures.
At the Lake Lure. We were on vacation and we were thinking that's a very timely subject. Like, let's go on vacation and not have to worry about being glued to our phone. Because you hear that a lot, and you can't, and it is true, this business, you can do it on your mobile device. Like, that's one of the advantages to the way we have things set up, is it is all virtual. But at the same time, when you're on vacation, you kind of just want to be on vacation and not be glued to that phone all the time, because we've had that experience before too.
Yeah, because when I'm floating around on my floaty float.
Yeah, you don't want your phone in a bag.
Right. I got John a beaver float because he likes beavers.
Beavers are a very noble animal. And they are awesome, and I don't know what's funny about that at all.
Nothing. It was glorious. But anyway.
And I did have a beaver float, yes.
I'll have to post a picture of that because it was great.
Yeah.
But what we want to talk about today was how that works, right? Is how are we able to do that? And we talked last week about the team members that we have in place. So this week we wanted to talk about what the team members actually did, how we train them to do the things, what they do, and the tools that they use to get it done.
Yeah, so there's 3 parts of that. It's the
training.
Yeah, it's great that you have team members, but you need the training.
Yes, training.
Yeah. And then the second part was
the systems and processes.
Right, which is
like how to do the things they do.
Right, yeah. Right. So there's a system, there's a process, there's a SOP for everything, dare I say? A standard operating procedure, and then it's, okay, well, what tools do you actually use to facilitate that?
Right.
Those processes.
Right.
Yeah.
So training we started with that because I feel like that is very foundational, because if you are going to take the time to bring someone on your team and you want them to stay there for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. So, and by the time you get done training them, it takes a little while. I want to say a couple of months to train someone up really good, really well. And that is the foundation that you can build upon to have them stay, to like what they do, to enjoy the job, because they feel supported, right? So let's talk about the training process.
And can they even do the job, right? Like, how do you want it done?
Yes.
Because that's one of the mistakes we made in the beginning, is we brought people on and did not really train them.
Yeah.
Just kind of gave them the tools,
right,
which we'll talk about.
Right.
But there was no training on what is, how do we want it done, right? And you need to think about that in your business too. How do you want it done? What's the culture there, right?
Well, I think that's really key. And the way that we started was we were actually the ones doing it.
That's right. And we built the systems too.
Yes.
And we ran the systems ourselves.
Yes.
So that's really step 1.
Yes.
But let's go back to training.
Yes. Right.
So training process in our company is?
So there's 4 steps to the training process. So the first one is watch me do it. So the second one is do it with me. The next one is do it by yourself. And then the 4th one is teach someone else. So let's go over each one of those, just touch on each one of those and how we do each one of those in our business.
Yeah, and you used to be a waitress, so you're very familiar with that process. And I think a lot of people would be familiar with that too. If you've ever been to a restaurant and had a waitress or a waiter in training, you've actually seen this going on.
Yes,
it may not internalized it.
Yep, it was going on.
Yeah. So the first thing you get this job is
watch me do it.
Yeah. So they're basically walking around with the experienced person.
Yep.
Essentially watching them take orders and watching how they enter the orders, because you have to go back to the kitchen and enter them, right? And then they're literally just following them around.
Right.
That's watch me do it.
So in our business, watch me do it is a lot of it is over Zoom, I would say.
Yeah, some of it's over Zoom. And another way to do that is simply make a video of you doing it.
Yes.
So anytime, that's a very simple thing you can do
Very
to start
simple.
documenting these processes.
Yes.
Is
Just-
every time you're doing something, no matter how mundane you think it is or how easy it is, just record it, screen record it.
Yep.
There are tools out there for it. Loom is one, very popular one, loom.com.
Loom.
Yep, that one works
Loom.
very well. Vimeo, if you've ever, they're kind of like their competitor to YouTube maybe.
Vimeo, Vimeo.
Yes, they have a free tool for doing it. I believe you can do it with Google Drive. I mean, there are tons of screen, sharing tools. And if you just install one of those and just make it a habit of every time you do something, record it.
Yep.
At least you have that.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
And that's so easy to do. Just click that record button and just record yourself doing it. And so that's the watch me do it.
And to your
phase.
point, sometimes it is, okay, let's get on Zoom and do it together.
It is, right. And then...
But then you record that too.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Right. For training purposes, this call will be recorded for training purposes.
Yes, well, it's true.
So that's the watch me do it. And then the do it with me is a lot over Zoom. That is where Zoom probably... we use that the most in Zoom is the do it with me.
It can be.
Yeah.
And then another way we've utilized that is, and we'll talk about one of the tools later, but basically we use a tool called Slack, which is our internal communications. So for a while there, for example, when the customer service people were responding to a guest, they would actually write out what they were going to say
In Slack.
in there, and then we would either say, yeah, that's good, or
change
this before
Right.
you send it.
Right.
So that was a way for us to do it with me
Yeah.
that didn't involve Zoom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And we'll talk more about Slack here when we talk about the tools. So that is
Watch me
do it, and that was do it with me. And then the third one is do it by yourself. And all this entails is
You've been trained and now go to do the job.
you
basically.
go do the job, and we are just here to kind of manage things and answer questions as needed, and that kind of thing, right? Help guide the process, right? So, and a lot of that is done in Slack too. So, and then the fourth one is train somebody else. So now that you have trained someone, and this is going to take several months. It's going to
Depends on the job.
several
You're talking
months
customer
for-
experience.
yes.
But our cleaners don't take several
well, the
months.
cleaners don't.
Right?
Yeah.
So it depends on who it is, what the job is,
Yeah.
I would say.
But I would say that for most customer experience people, it's going to take them a couple of months
That's
to
true,
do.
yeah.
To really feel comfortable in the position where they don't have to ask you a million questions. Like, can I say this? Can I say that? So now that you have someone that is
Competent.
and knows a little bit about how the role works and the tools and the processes of things, now they can go train somebody else, right? And you're not having to do it, which I love that.
Yeah, and another thing we have them do a lot of the times is actually create the documentation for us.
Yes.
So even if we're making a video, say,
Yeah.
we may make a video of, hey, here's how to do this thing. And then it's their job to actually watch that video and write it out in text. And then that also gives you feedback of, did they really understand the video? Because it's kind of like read this book and write me an essay. So it's watch this video and write out the procedure.
Right, step by step.
Yes, and
like
then
here's
that-
step one,
yes.
here's step two, here's step three.
As detailed as possible.
Yeah, right.
So that now you have it documented not only in video, but in written form.
Right.
Because people learn different ways. And that person truly understood what it was, because you've now read through that and said, yes, this, or no, change this, that type of thing. So that ends up starts building your documentation over time. And then that becomes a training tool as new people come in.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's great that you are not the only one that is creating those those SOPs, those standard operating procedures. So let's talk a little bit about that next, because that leads us nicely into the second thing that we were going to talk about, which is, in fact, these systems and the processes. Like, what do they do, right? So if
Depends on the job.
right.
Right.
So let's break that down into the different team members that we have in place, right? So let's start with the customer experience specialist, then we'll talk about the operations specialist, and then we'll talk about the cleaners.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's do it that way.
And we're separating processes from tools. Is
Yes,
that right?
correct.
Okay,
'Cause we're
those
gonna
are
talk-
easy to confuse.
Yeah, yes, so that's a
yeah.
really good thing to talk about. So why don't you talk about what the difference between those things is?
Got it. So your processes tend to be the thing, the thing that's getting done. It's the process. Meaning, for example, if someone, let's go to the customer experience side. If someone inquires and asks for a discount, the process ends up being, okay, here's what we asked them. So we may ask them, what discount were you looking for?
Right.
Or we may say, what was your budget?
Right.
There's lots of responses you could have, but that's the process.
Right.
And then we have, basically a list we go through to determine, we can give you this off, we can give you this off, or there's no discount available. And it's, how do you determine that? Well, there's an SOP for that. But that's different from the tool of how we're actually communicating with them.
Right.
Or where those procedures are stored. That's a tool. It's not really the process.
Right.
So the tools tend to facilitate the processes and make those processes easier. Another example would be the cleaners. Obviously, their job is to come clean and have a checklist, and that's the process. And then if there's a problem, they report it to us. But the tool then becomes what facilitates that, what facilitates the checklist, what facilitates the quality control, what facilitates the feedback to them.
Right.
Right. And that tool could range from anything from, hey, I call them on the phone and schedule them, all the way to, well, I'm using a tool that automates that process like we do.
Right.
Right. So that's the tool.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And they're very closely tied together because
They
sometimes
are,
the processes enter this in the tool.
right.
Right. But it's not the main thing. It's the tool can change. The process tends to be.
And I think the tool will change as you grow and scale too. We've noticed that
True,
happens.
true.
quite-
And your
quite often.
processes change as well as
They
you
do.
refine.
Yes.
As you
because
refine
we
over time.
certainly did not start off with
The same things we have today, yeah.
the extensive systems and processes that we use today, for sure. So it is very much a fluid thing to.
Yeah, it's an iterative
It's
process.
always going to be changing and growing and making it better all the time.
And it usually comes from some mistake.
Yes.
Or something that happened
An
that was
experience. Yes.
not perfect,
Right.
which is probably the wrong thing to say because it's hard to be perfect. But it's something that, okay, if we had this, then this would not have happened.
Right.
Right. And then that becomes a
lot.
procedure, or
Yep.
that becomes okay, what tool do we need
Yep.
to make sure that procedure gets followed? Because sometimes it's that.
Yep.
The procedure did not get followed. Like there was something on the cleaning checklist that wasn't done. So what tool can we use to make sure that happens?
Yep.
Right. So that's just an example.
Yeah. So let's talk about the how-to
Okay.
of it. So, and let's start, we're going to do the customer experience specialist, then we'll talk about the operations specialist, then we'll talk about the cleaners. So, and if you're talking about the customer experience specialist, now this person is, we talked about this last week, but this person is really the glue that holds this business together.
Yeah, they're the hub.
They-
I think of them as a
They
hub
are,
of a wheel.
because
Yeah.
they are the ones that are responsible for things like messaging the guests, communicating with the guests. They're responsible for communicating with the cleaners. They're responsible for communicating and organizing and scheduling any kind of maintenance that needs to happen. So this person is really a key role in your business. So how do they how do they do their job is all SOPs, I would say.
Yeah, it is. Everything in the business should be.
Everything
Should be documented.
is SOP driven.
It is, yeah.
So that they know exactly what to do and how to do it. And it all starts with SOPs.
Right. So that's an example of a procedure. So say the cleaners come and clean, and this just happened, and they discover that the blinds are broken, and they report that back to customer service, customer experience team. Now that's their procedure. They're done. They don't fix blinds. So what's the customer service to do? Well, their procedure is reach out to maintenance and relay that, hey, this needs to be done. And then find out and coordinate for them to go, fix that before the next guest comes.
Right.
Or if they're not going to be able to then, reach out to the guest proactively and say, hey, we know this is a problem. Is it okay if maintenance comes after you arrive to fix it? Right. So they end up communicating with all three of those pieces that don't necessarily directly communicate with each other. And they need to be in the middle because it's a customer-driven, customer-focused experience. So they really need to be in a large sense so that they know what's going on, so that they can anticipate, okay, a guest comes and they tell you the blinds are broken. Well, you already know.
Right.
Or you've already reached out to them, hopefully, or whatever it is, whatever the problem was. That was just an example. But they are the hub. So that's an example of a procedure. Do you want to talk about the tools yet, or like how they do their job?
I feel like that would be a natural progression of things.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, did you want to talk about the other team members first? Did you want to talk about cleaners? Did you want to talk about...
Well, it would make more sense if you did the tools to go along with that.
Okay, so for our internal communications, I mentioned earlier, we use a program called It's Free. It's very much like Messenger. It's kind of like a group chat, if you will. And there are different channels, so you can break up these chats into, so is it this one big long group chat like you might have on your phone, like with a text or something? They're actually different channels. So we have a channel for cleaning, where we only talk about cleaning. We have a channel for each property, where we only talk about things that are associated with that property in that channel. So it helps you organize your communication as well. And then we have an internal team. We have an operations channel where it's really us and customer experience. So because they are the hub, that tends to be the only people in there. The cleaners are actually in there. We have a cleaning channel. That's where they can talk back and forth to the cleaners if need be. So that Slack communications channel is great because you're going to have more than one customer experience person eventually anyway. And what you need is a centralized place so that when the next person comes on shift, they now have access to all the communications that have happened.
Yep.
So it's
and
part
all
of
organized.
So it's all transparent. It's also all informed. Everybody's informed.
Yep.
And it's organized. And it's free. Now there is a paid version of it that eventually you're going to want as you scale, but I like to start with tools that are free, especially when you're just starting out. Well, every penny counts.
Sure.
And a lot of large corporations use Slack. It's not like it's...
That's true.
It's a well-functioning product. So Slack is our internal communications. That's how that would have happened. So the cleaners may have reported a problem. They may have notified customer service in Slack rather than texting, right? Because that is now stuck on your phone.
Yep.
Right? So we don't
Nobody
want to be
else knows
glued
about
to
it
the
but
phone.
you.
We want it out here somewhere. So
Yep.
it's in Slack. They talk to customer service in Slack. Customer service can talk back to them and actually perhaps even talk to maintenance. Maybe there's a maintenance channel in there. Or it may be that your operations specialist, which is the person that goes out to the unit when somebody needs to go out that's not, a maintenance issue or a cleaning issue. Maybe it's something they can address and go do, because it could be something like the cleaners just tell you, hey, we don't have any more toilet paper. We'd love to put some out for you, but you don't have any. Well, now that comes back into customer service. Customer service then would talk to the runner or operations specialist and say, hey, can you take some toilet paper over there? Because the cleaners didn't have any, right? So it becomes your hub of communication. So Slack is a big tool that we use like all the time, every day.
All the time. Yep.
Now for the cleaners, we actually have a program that is called Turnover B&B that we use. There are several. There's another one called Properly. We happen to like Turnover B&B. But what it does is it allows us to not only automatically schedule cleaners, so you can hook this thing up to your calendar.
Yeah.
So that when they're in, because you're always cleaning on checkout, always on checkout.
Oh, that's a pro
The
tip.
day of checkout, you can actually have it automatically schedule your cleaner to come on checkout. So now that's a piece of automation actually that helps you not have to schedule your cleaners. Right? Remember, I'm trying to get away from and it also, because it's automated, it eliminates or helps to eliminate mistakes. Like we forgot to schedule the cleaner. Right. And what it also does, it allows them to verify that, yes, they're coming because they accept the cleaning job.
Yep.
And then when they're cleaning, it also provides them the checklist.
Yes.
That then they can check off. And then it allows them to upload pictures of the things they cleaned. So now in this one.
And it pays them automatically too.
It will pay them automatically. So within this one tool, we have documentation that things got done. We have the procedure of how to get it done. We have the scheduling done. And we have a way to quality control it remotely by having them put those pictures in there. And then
automated.
I thought of it because they can actually also report problems in there.
Yes, they can.
So if not Slack, they can put it in Turnover and mark that as a problem. And then customer service again would get it from that channel. So Turnover B&B is a big one for the cleaners that we use. For our operations specialists, we actually schedule them on a calendar, and we automate that through Trello and Zapier. So Zapier is a program that allows you to tie programs together that aren't necessarily connected otherwise. So what it does is it ties our calendar to a tool called Trello,
which is free as
well. And it assigns a due date for them to go do tasks when things need to get done. Like, for example, in our houses in Charlotte, somebody has to take the trash down every Sunday and Monday, depending on the place. That gets scheduled for the runner to do. Somebody has to, in the Charlotte properties, the runner goes to every checkout because they're also the one running the linens back and forth to the linen service. So they get scheduled for every checkout.
Inventory
is on there as well.
Yep.
So Trello becomes, actually we do all of our documentation on Trello as well.
All the SOPs are housed
all
in
the
Trello.
SOPs live there. And again, that's just the tool. You don't have to use Trello, but it's what we use. And it's free, again, which is what I like to always start people on something that's free. And you may graduate from it eventually, but it's a great tool. So those are the three main ones that we use a lot as far as the operations of the business, beyond pricing, and there's some other tools that we use for other things. But as far as operations and getting everything done, it's mostly Turnover B&B and Trello and Slack. And then the third, I would say the fourth one that's a big one, is a program called Hospitable. And what Hospitable is, it's now the communication to the guests. Because remember, they're not in Slack.
Right.
But we are on multiple platforms. So what it has is an integrated inbox, so that if something comes in from Airbnb, or it comes in from Vrbo, or it comes in direct even, all those communications are there centrally
inbox
in Hospitable. And it has an automation component as well, so that it can automatically send out, for example, thank you for your reservation when someone makes a reservation, or thank you for your inquiry when somebody makes an inquiry, or here are your check-in instructions 2 days before, or the first morning of, we say, I hope everything's okay, please let us know if anything. All those automations are done through Hospitable, and it gives the customer service a way to have that unified inbox and respond when they need to, because not all communication can be automated.
Right.
For example,
that's very true.
Discounts. Yes, we can generically respond to discounts, but we can't approve or deny them. We still have to communicate. Or they have a specific question about certain things. That's a manual response.
How far is this from wherever they're going?
Right. Or, can I park my RV in your driveway? Those types of things are manual.
Can I bring a chicken?
Can I bring a chicken? That's happened. We did allow it for a pet fee.
We did.
We did.
We've
Chickens aren't that bad.
We've had a pet chicken.
Pet chicken. But yeah, so that's one of our big tools as well. That's really helpful in the business. And in the course material, we have a lot more detail on actually how to use all of those.
Right. We can coach you on exactly how to set all this up and how it all works together.
Because they are tools, but you have to set them up properly and
learn
kind
how
of
to use them expertly.
let them all hook together properly and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So that's the major tools that we use, I would say, to facilitate those processes.
Very good. So we hope that you found some value in this episode. Be sure to like and follow, and we will see you next time. On to the next.
On to the next.